Everyone in the village laughed at her. A farmer's daughter? A judge? You must be joking. They shouted, pointing, mocking, smirking. Yet, in the dim light of her small room, she opened a tattered book, her fingers tracing the letters like they were sacred. No one saw the quiet fire burning in her eyes, the promise she whispered to herself every night. I will prove them wrong. This is the story of how silence, grit, and quiet determination toppled ridicule and claimed respect the world could no longer ignore. The village square erupted in laughter, as if joy itself had abandoned reason. A young girl, no older than 18, stood in the center, shoulders squared but trembling slightly beneath the weight of every mocking gaze. A farmer's daughter as a judge? The village elders scoffed, shaking their heads. She'll never understand law, justice, or the world beyond these muddy fields. Children giggled behind their parents' skirts, imitating her dream with cruel gestures. Even the men, hardened by years of labor under sun and rain, smirked, whispering that ambition beyond the plow was dangerous folly. She did not speak. She could not. Words would have betrayed her fury and her fear. Instead, she inhaled the earthy scent of the village soil and allowed it to remind her of her roots. The soil had been patient. It had not mocked her. The stars had been patient. They had not laughed at her dreams. And so, she turned quietly, eyes glinting, and walked away from the square as the laughter followed her like a cloud of crows. Her name was Elara. Elara, the daughter of the village's simplest farmer, carried in her chest a pulse of rebellion that no insult could still. By day, she worked under the scorching sun, tending to fields of wheat and vegetables, her fingers cracking and blistering under the persistent work. By night, however, the fields transformed into her sanctuary of dreams. In a small attic above the barn, lit only by the flickering glow of a candle and the silver gaze of the moon, she opened old law books she had begged from distant relatives. Each word was a stone in the bridge she was building to a world that refused to believe in her. She studied while the village slept, her eyes heavy, her hands stiff from labor, yet unwavering in their devotion. The smell of hay mingled with the dusty pages. The cold wind seeped through the attic cracks, nipping her ears, yet she did not retreat. Every night was a battle against exhaustion, against doubt, against the ever-present echo of the village's laughter. She whispered to herself, in the silence where no one could hear, I will rise, I will prove them wrong. Elara's father watched from the doorway on more than one occasion, hesitant to disturb her solitude. He saw the fatigue etched into her young face, the way her hands trembled as she turned each page. And yet, beneath the worry, there was a flicker of pride he could not contain. He had tilled soil for decades, dreamt small dreams, and accepted the weight of his world. He never imagined that his daughter could challenge the sky itself. But Elara, even in the quiet of the night, challenged it. Her mother, stern yet gentle, would leave a bowl of warm soup by the stairs, knowing her daughter would pause only for a sip before diving back into the world of statutes, cases, and courtrooms she had never seen but imagined with breathtaking clarity. The house was silent, save for the rustle of pages and the occasional groan of exhausted bones. Outside, the village snored. Inside, Elara built a kingdom in her mind, one where justice was not defined by birthright, but by merit, courage, and resilience. The villagers, meanwhile, continued their taunts. At the market, she was pointed at with scorn. At the well, whispers followed her like shadows. "She'll never leave this village," they said. "Dreams are for those who are not shackled by dirt under their nails." Every word, every laugh, was a stone thrown at her spirit. But she did not falter. The pain of ridicule became fuel, each insult a spark that lit her determination. Elara's closest companion in this secret battle was an old cracked journal, filled with notes, reflections, and legal observations she made from books she had memorized. She would write in the margins, arguments flowing like water over rocks, building the precision of thought she would one day need in court. The candlelight flickered across her determined expression, casting shadows that made her seem older than her years, a girl both fragile and unbreakable. Time passed, as it always does. Seasons changed, sun scorched and rain battered the fields. Yet Elara continued her nocturnal education. Her body ached. Her eyes burned. Her fingers were raw from endless writing. But in that solitude, she discovered something that no laughter could touch. Confidence born from relentless effort. Confidence born from proving silently to herself that she could achieve what others declared impossible. Then, the day came when her studies collided with opportunity. A chance arose for a scholarship to the city's prestigious law academy. The villagers laughed louder than ever. "Why does she even bother? She'll fail like she always fails," they sneered. Yet the committee, unaware of the village's small-minded mockery, was captivated by her essay. An essay written by candlelight, inspired by the smell of hay, the rhythm of hard labor, and the quiet power of a dream forged in solitude. She was accepted. The journey to the city was both literal and symbolic. Each step away from the village was a step into a world that judged her not by her origins, but by the content of her character and the sharpness of her mind. City streets smelled of smoke, wet stone, and opportunity. Her eyes, once accustomed to the simple hues of farmland, now drank in the textures of marble, leather, and polished wood. But the village had given her more than ridicule. It had given her resilience. Every sneer she remembered became a pillar supporting her ascent. At the academy, Elara thrived. Her professors noted her meticulous attention to detail, her unwavering dedication, and her innate sense of justice. She argued cases in mock trials with a calm authority that belied her age, each word delivered with the quiet power of someone who had fought battles invisible to the eyes of others. She did not boast. She did not flaunt. She allowed her knowledge and integrity to speak for her, letting the silence around her radiate strength rather than fear. Years passed. Graduation day arrived, a moment when every late night, every blister, every whisper of doubt finally converged into tangible triumph. She returned to her village, not as a girl to be mocked, but as a woman to be respected, sworn in as the youngest judge the region had ever known. The square that once rang with laughter now fell silent as she walked through, robe flowing, head high, and eyes steady. The villagers, those who had mocked and whispered, watched in disbelief. Their surprise was tangible, their shame a quiet storm. And yet, Elara did not gloat. She raised her hand in calm greeting, acknowledging the crowd with a dignity that silenced the lingering murmurs. Her father's eyes glistened with tears. Her mother's lips pressed into a tight, proud smile. The soil and the stars had not failed her. The village's laughter had only strengthened her. In her first case, she presided with fairness that startled even seasoned lawyers. Justice was not her weapon. Fairness was. Her decisions carried weight not because of her youth or novelty, but because she embodied the principles she had lived by. Quiet diligence triumphs over derision, and integrity overcomes doubt. On one memorable day, a man who had once mocked her, pointing fingers in the square, came before her in court. He pleaded his case, but the law was impartial, the evidence clear, and Elara's calm authority unshakable. When she pronounced judgment, it was measured, just, and final. The courtroom murmured, stunned by the power of her silent authority. Later, she whispered, not for the world, but for herself. Mockery is loud. Dedication is louder. Over time, the villagers learned to respect her. They brought their disputes to her with the same reverence they once reserved for elders. Children, inspired by her journey, whispered dreams that no one dared ridicule. And through it all, Elara remained the same, grounded, humble, and unwavering. She had not only silenced the village, she had transformed it. She often returned to the fields, the scent of soil filling her senses with nostalgia and comfort. Sometimes, alone beneath the twilight sky, she would close her eyes and feel the wind that had once whispered insults through the wheat, now whispering encouragement. You did it, it seemed to say. You stayed, you endured, and you rose. Iconic lines that lingered in the hearts of all who knew her story spread beyond the village. Mockery is loud. Dedication is louder. Dreams planted in silence bloom louder than words ever could. Strength is often quiet, but it is unstoppable. Years later, as she addressed a room full of young, aspiring lawyers, she spoke softly yet firmly, her voice carrying the weight of experience and the warmth of empathy. Never let anyone define what you can or cannot achieve. The world may laugh at your dreams, but the nights you dedicate in secret, those are your true victories. Elara's life became a testament to resilience, quiet courage, and the invisible battles fought in silence. Every corner of the village, every corridor of the courthouse, bore witness to her journey. A journey that began with laughter and scorn and ended with respect and admiration. Her story reminded all who heard it that true strength is often hidden, and real justice is not just in the law, but in the character that upholds it. In the end, the village learned the profound truth she had known all along. The worth